Right now, you can perform an incredibly simple action. Reach out your hand and flick Witch on the wall. In less than a tenth of a second, your room will be flooded with brilliant, artificial light. We have become so accustomed to banishing the night instantly that we treat it as an inherent right of being a modern human. But if you were to rewind the biological clock of humanity by about 100,000 years, the setting of the sun was not just a signal to go to sleep. It was the exact moment when the boundary between life and death began to blur. When the twilight faded completely, our ancestors did not have LED bulbs, smartphone flashlights, or police officers patrolling the mouth of the cave. Darkness back then was a thick, black wall where human vision fell to virtually zero, and the surrounding world suddenly belonged to a completely different group of inhabitants. Nocturnal predators with glowing eyes and razor-sharp claws. So, were ancient humans actually afraid of the dark? Or is this fear merely a byproduct of our modern, pampered lifestyle? There is a very common myth that our ancestors were fierce warriors of nature, who could easily stroll through dense forests at night without a hint of fear. Movies often depict muscular prehistoric humans holding fire torches, hunting saber-toothed cats in the middle of the night. But biological reality tells a completely different story, and frankly, one that is a bit embarrassing for a species that claims to rule the planet. Humans are strictly diurnal animals. Our eyes are highly optimized to see sharp details and vibrant colors under the bright sun, but when night falls, we become virtually blind. In contrast, the top predators of the Pleistocene, such as leopards, cave lions, and saber-toothed cats, possessed specialized ocular structures designed to amplify weak light. To a nocturnal predator, a human standing in the dark is nothing more than a giant, defenseless pile of calories, standing still and waiting to be eaten. The fear of the dark you feel today is not a weakness or a childish psychological phase. It is a highly serious survival legacy, a neural protective circuit sculpted by natural selection over millions of years of being prey. To prove that our ancestors were not just afraid of the dark in theory, let us examine an incredibly valuable and shocking piece of archaeological evidence. At the Swartkrans Cave in South Africa, archaeologists discovered a famous fossil cranium designated as SK54. This is the skull roof of a juvenile hominin belonging to either Paranthropus robustus or early Homo, who lived approximately 1.8 million years ago. Looking closely at the back of this skull, researchers found two distinct, circular puncture holes, spaced perfectly apart. For years, scientists speculated about what could have caused the death of this young hominin. That was until paleoanthropologist Bob Brain placed the skull roof against the lower jaw of a fossilized prehistoric leopard found in the same geological layer. The fit was so precise it was chilling. The leopard's two lower canine teeth fit perfectly into the puncture wounds of the child's skull. This is not just evidence of a random attack. Leopards are notorious nocturnal and crepuscular hunters that drag their prey into trees or caves to avoid scavengers like hyenas. Hominin fossil accumulations in South African caves are now widely understood as the leftovers of big cats. The SK54 fossil is a cold reminder that in the dark of night, our ancestors were actively on the menu. But why did evolution not grant humans superior night vision like cats or owls? Why did nature create a highly intelligent species but leave them completely blind whenever the sun set? The answer lies in a core principle of evolutionary biology, the concept of biological trade-offs. To achieve excellent night vision, the eyes of nocturnal animals require a reflective layer behind the retina called the tapetum lucidum. This membrane reflects light back through the retina, giving photoreceptors a second chance to absorb weak light photons. This is why a cat's eyes glow when hit by a flashlight. However, this reflection scatters light, which severely degrades image resolution and makes it almost impossible to distinguish fine color details. Our ancestors took a different evolutionary path. We needed razor-sharp daytime vision to detect ripe fruits, distinguish toxic plants, and track animal footprints over long distances. We also needed stereoscopic color vision to evaluate food quality. The evolutionary trade-off was clear. To become master daytime visual specialists, we had to accept being visual amputees at night. Because of this temporary blindness, darkness triggers a powerful biological response inside our brains. When you walk into a dark room and suddenly feel your heart racing or the hair on your arms standing up, that is your amygdala, the brain's emotional threat processor, firing at full capacity. The amygdala does not wait for you to logically analyze whether there is a threat. It automatically puts your body into red alert, fight or flight mode, the moment your retina reports a lack of visual data. In this state, our brain employs an evolutionary cognitive bias known as the hyperactive agency detection device. This mechanism causes humans to assume that any ambiguous sound or shadow is caused by an intentional agent, like a predator or an enemy, rather than a physical force. If you hear a rustle in the bushes at night, your brain immediately concludes, a leopard is stalking me, rather than it's just the wind. From a survival standpoint, a false positive, assuming a shadow is a leopard and running away, costs very little energy. But a false negative, assuming a leopard is just the wind, is fatal. Natural selection heavily favored individuals who feared the dark and imagined monsters in the shadows, as their paranoia kept them alive. However, if humans are blind and terrified at night, how did we manage to sleep without being turned into midnight snacks for wild beasts? We could not stay awake all night forever. To solve this evolutionary puzzle, natural selection developed a unique group strategy that scientists call the Sentinel sleep hypothesis. In 2017, anthropologist David Sampson and his colleagues conducted a groundbreaking study on the Hadza people of Tanzania, a modern population whose hunter-gatherer lifestyle is a close analog to how our ancestors lived for tens of thousands of years. The researchers tracked the sleep patterns of 33 tribe members using actigraphy sensors for 20 consecutive days. The results shocked the scientific world. Out of more than 220 hours of sleep tracked, there were only 18 minutes where all adults in the group slept simultaneously. On average, at any given moment during the night, at least 8 adults were either completely awake or in a state of very light, alert sleep, ready to sound the alarm at the slightest disturbance. This evolutionary strategy was crucial because a single guard could fall asleep from exhaustion, or their attention could wander. By having a natural, shifting rotation of light and deep sleepers, the group was constantly protected. This collective vigilance was a massive safety net that allowed early hominins to lower their stress levels and achieve the deep REM sleep necessary for cognitive recovery, brain development, and complex learning. The most fascinating part is that the Hadza do not formally assign night watch shifts. This continuous vigilance happens completely naturally due to age-related variations in biological clocks, known as chronotypes. Older adults in the tribe, such as grandparents, naturally tend to go to sleep early and wake up very early in the morning, acting as early larks. Conversely, adolescents and young adults tend to stay up very late and sleep in the next morning, acting as night owls. When you group people of all ages together in a shared living space, this natural circadian misalignment creates a decentralized, passive early warning system that operates 24/7. No single individual has to sacrifice their health or sleep to stay on guard. From an evolutionary perspective, your difficulty falling asleep early or your natural tendency to be a night owl is not a modern pathology caused by smartphone screens. It is likely the genetic footprint of an ancient sentinel whose job was to keep the tribe safe when darkness reigned. Even with natural sentinels, darkness remained a massive physical barrier to human progression. Everything changed when our ancestors mastered a tool that no other animal on Earth could touch: the domestication of fire. Archaeological evidence suggests hominins began controlling fire between 1 million and 400,000 years ago. Fire was not just a tool for cooking meat or keeping warm, it was a high-tech weapon that literally drove back the dark. A glowing campfire creates a physical safe zone with a radius of several meters. Inside this circle, bright light pushes back the shadows, and the heat and smoke deter nocturnal predators from approaching. Campfires transformed the night from a passive, terrifying period of hiding into an active social space. For the first time in evolutionary history, humans could extend their daily activities after sunset without fearing the hidden fangs in the dark. Before fire, humans were prisoners of the sun. The moment twilight faded, all productive work, social bonding, and movement ground to a halt. We had to curl up in the darkness, shivering in fear, hoping no big cat would drag us away. But a crackling campfire changed everything. It was the first time humans could manipulate their physical environment to create a zone of artificial safety, turning the hostile predatory night into an extension of the day. At this point, you might wonder, did fire really change our evolution just by helping us see in the dark? Was its impact truly that profound? To answer this, anthropologist Polly Wiesner conducted a meticulous study in 2014, recording hundreds of conversations among the Juansi Bushmen of Botswana during the day and around the campfire at night. She discovered a stark, mind-blowing difference. During the day, 70% of conversations were functional, focusing on economic transactions, hunting coordination, complaints, and gossip used to regulate social behavior. But at night, around the glowing embers, the conversation shifted dramatically. 81% of firelight talk consisted of stories, ancient myths, histories of past hunts, humor, and cultural lore, along with singing and dancing. The warm light of the fire diffused daytime social tensions, bonded the group, and transformed the dark wilderness outside the light circle into a shared cultural landscape. The campfire was the cradle of human culture, complex language, and the earliest forms of mythology. To maximize their safety around the campfire, our ancestors also developed unique sleeping behaviors. Unlike modern humans who sleep in isolated, closed bedrooms on soft mattresses, prehistoric humans slept in a communal fashion known as co-sleeping. They slept packed closely together in a circle surrounding the fire, creating a defensive barrier of warm flesh. This communal sleep served two major purposes: sharing body heat during freezing Ice Age nights and increasing collective vigilance. If a predator attempted to approach the sleeping circle, the lightest sleeper would detect the noise, sound the alarm, and the entire group would instantly wake up to defend themselves using rocks, spears, and burning logs. Additionally, maintaining the fire throughout the night required cooperation. Individuals who woke up naturally during the night, a normal part of human sleep architecture, would toss fresh logs onto the embers, ensuring the protective light never went out. The biological balance between humans and the dark shifted dramatically with the agricultural revolution about 12,000 years ago. As humans transitioned from nomadic bands to permanent settlements, they began building physical defenses far more robust than a simple campfire. Mud brick walls, thorny wooden fences, and, most importantly, the domestication of dogs, nocturnal predators with hypersensitive hearing and smell, created a fortress around human sleep. Dogs acted as the ultimate biological motion sensors, barking loudly at any shadow that lurked in the dark. From this point forward, the human fear of the dark was no longer a direct fear of being eaten by wild beasts. Instead, it began to morph into a spiritual, abstract anxiety, a fear of thieves, spirits, and supernatural monsters lurking just beyond the village walls. Even though we now live in the 21st century, with massive cities glowing so brightly they can be seen from space, our brains remain biologically identical to those of Pleistocene cavemen. This mismatch between our ancient adaptations and our modern environment creates strange psychological phenomena. When you lie down in your comfortable bed in a secure apartment on the 20th floor, yet still feel an inexplicable dread when you turn off the lights, that is the prehistoric ghost in your brain, scanning the shadows for non-existent leopards. To make matters worse, staring at blue light-emitting phone screens before sleep tricks the brain into thinking the sun is still up, suppressing melatonin and disrupting our natural sleep-wake cycle. The modern brain is caught in a stressful paradox. It is overstimulated by daytime information, yet its amygdala is primed to react with ancient panic when the lights finally go out. This ancient biological setup means that we are constantly living with a mismatch. Our modern world is flooded with light, noise, and constant stimulation, but our brains are still tuned to the quiet, dark nights of the African savanna. When we force our brains to stay active under fluorescent lights and screen glare, we are actively fighting millions of years of evolutionary engineering, leading to a state of chronic, low-grade stress. The invention of high-intensity artificial lighting, from oil lamps and gas lighting to Thomas Edison's incandescent bulb and today's LEDs, has raised the safety floor of humanity to unprecedented heights. We have turned night into a second day, doubling our productive, social, and entertainment hours. However, this comes at a steep biological cost. Continuous artificial light has erased the natural boundary between day and night, severely disrupting our circadian rhythms and contributing to chronic health issues, sleep disorders, and mental fatigue. We have banished the physical dangers of the dark, but we have also denied our nervous system the deep, natural rest that only a dark, silent night can provide. Ultimately, our fear of the dark is not an evolutionary defect that we need to cure. It is an extraordinary survival mechanism, a living testament to how hard our ancestors had to fight to survive in a hostile world. This fear reminds us of our humble beginnings, that we were once vulnerable creatures hiding from predators under the wild night sky. The next time you turn off the lights and feel a slight shiver in the dark, do not feel embarrassed. Smile and be proud that your amygdala is doing exactly what it was designed to do, protecting your life, just as it did for your ancestors for millions of years. What do you think about our fear of the dark? What is the scariest thing your brain has ever imagined in a dark room? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss another evolutionary science story.